We already know that our cells and our neurons communicate with one another. We also know that somehow our neurons and our cells extract information from the external, bring it in, process it, and store it somehow. But what is this information at the cellular and neural level, we may ask? How do we define this information, and what happens at the molecular level where cells and neurons just know how to communicate and also translate the information that is outside and bring it in, convert it to whatever information makes sense to them, and then also store it somehow. While we know the answers to some of these questions, there are many answers that we still do not have, and we still cannot really define this type of information that I just mentioned. After decades of research, we're still at its infancy to figure out what information is at these molecular level, also cellular level, as well as at the level of neurons. With advances in technology and the evolution of time and our knowledge, hopefully we'll be able to answer some of these questions more and more as we move forward. However, for this video, I want to share one of the findings that is one of the stepping stones towards this direction. One discipline where we have taken the first baby steps towards answering these questions is the discipline of information science. And one of the major theoretical framework in the discipline of information science is called the Information Search Process Model, or the ISP model. In this model, scientists have investigated what happens at the physical, cognitive, and affective state of an individual adult when they seek information and knowledge. Scientists were able to map out 6 different stages during the information search process model that were at the physical, cognitive, and affective state of an individual. Some of these stages started way in advance before an individual started seeking information and knowledge. Here's, for example, when curiosity motivated the person to seek information and knowledge. While the information search process model was quite comprehensively investigated and researched, it did lack one particular section, and that was the neurological aspect of the 6 stages. In other words, what happens at the brain, neurologically, brainwaves level during the 6 stages of information process model. And here is where we spent almost a decade investigating and researching as to what happens at the brain electrical activities and frequencies when we seek information and knowledge. Going back to the MIT study that I shared with you yesterday, that explained that different brainwaves frequency may have different responsibility, whether they are higher frequency or lower frequency. Knowing the different brainwaves at the information search process model might lead us to some type of a connection between the two. And here is what mapping the electrical activities of the brain during information and knowledge seeking model showed us. During the initial phases of information and knowledge seeking, the brain exhibited higher frequency waves such as gamma waves in specific regions of the brain. And during the latter phases of information seeking, this is when the individual have found what they were looking for, the brain exhibited lower brain frequencies such as beta in specific parts and regions of the brain. It's also worth mentioning that during the initial phases where the brain waves were at higher frequencies, the initial information process model showed that individuals were feeling of confusion, vagueness, and uncertainty during that phase, initial phase of seeking and looking for information. Whereas in the latter part of information seeking process model, the latter stages where the brain frequencies were lower, the individuals reported feeling calmer, more at ease, and also increased interest. This is when they had found the information they were looking for and they felt quite knowledgeable about it. These findings, along with the MIT study findings that I shared the other day, might lead us to a connection between the two, because the MIT study showed us that there is a difference in terms of what responsibility a high frequency brain waves have, whereas a low brain frequency have. In this case, for example, lower brain frequencies were regulating the higher brain frequencies, and higher brain frequencies were the ones who made sure that the sensory information came in. And to our surprise, there also appears to be difference between gamma and beta waves, where individuals are seeking information in the beginning. When they're looking for the information in the beginning phases, they show higher brain frequencies, and that is actually when their sensory information is coming in, whereas at the end of the information seeking process model, the brain waves were lower, and that is where we're processing the information in the sort of a lower ranges of beta waves. Now, going back to the questions posed in the beginning of this video, these type of studies are our baby steps to figuring out what all these electrical activities in our bodies and in our brain mean. How could they possibly be part of this information exchange between internally as well as externally? And also, how do we even define this information? Are we talking about electrical signals, or what is it? How do they know? How do these different parts know even what to do? And so definitely we're taking a lot of small steps towards that. I'm also curious as to figuring out, understanding what you think about this. So if you have any thoughts, please go ahead and share.